Hey there, you're tuning in to LowKey by Oaky, our easygoing sessions for hotel professionals where we chat about industry trends, issues, and solutions. Hello, everyone. Warm welcome to LowKey by Oaky, episode 3. I am beyond ecstatic to be joined by two inspirational guests today, Juan and Ali. And for those of you that are new and just tuning in, LowKey by Oaky is a podcast series that we've released talking in a chill manner about interesting hotel and hospitality concepts and topics. So today we're going to talk about how to achieve sustainable profitability, which I am very excited to learn more about. But before we begin, let's go ahead and introduce our guests today. Juan, do you want to start off and introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me here. Thank you to the Oaky team.
It's our pleasure.
And yes, my name is Juan Ruano. I'm a hotelier, revenue manager by trade with many years of experience, too many, in revenue management and consultancy. And over the last 7 years, I've been implementing revenue management technology across the world. But it's true that at the personal level, over the last few years, I've been developing a passion for anything to do with sustainability from a business perspective, but also from a social and an environmental point of view. And I think that's why I'm here today. So pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Juan. Mm-hmm. And Ali, what about you? Could you give us an introduction?
Yeah, of course. So really happy to be back at the Oaky office. I'm Ali Dragozet, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sea Going Green. I'm also a marine and freshwater biologist who used to work in the tourism industry. And then 6 years ago, I decided, let's run my own consultancy, which is what Sea Going Green is. We're a sustainable tourism enterprise with a really big mission to really alleviate the negative impacts of tourism on the environment as a whole. So we do this by working with both private sector, really with hotels and yachting companies, river cruises, managing their carbon footprints, and then also with the public sector, working directly with governments to make sustainable tourism master plans.
Very cool. It must have been a big jump starting out on your own.
For sure.
It's always a little bit scary, but super cool to have you here and learn more from you. Now, just so that we can tell our listeners a little bit more about us, besides our jobs and what we're working with, can we share a fun fact about each other? So, well, actually, I just realized I didn't even introduce myself. You might wonder who this voice is that's speaking. So my name is Allison Chambers. I'm one of the sales managers here at Oaky. And I'm actually thrilled to host this podcast. Sustainability is a subject that I've been trying to learn myself, both personally and professionally. And so I was very excited to be asked to host this podcast together with Juan and Ali. But yeah, let's share a fun fact about each other just so that I can learn a little bit more about you. Juan, tell us something fun.
Well, I don't know if it's that funny, but it's definitely true. My sister is 7 years older than me. So when I grew up, I pretty much grew up as a kind of single child. And I developed a passion for radio. I was fascinated by anything to do with radio, particularly sports commentators, politics, anything. So I spent my entire day pretty much listening to radio. When I turned 17, I thought I was going to go for a career in journalism, and I wanted to be behind the mic. But my life took me in a completely different direction, as I mentioned before, and I never went for that career, and I've never been behind the mic. So today is the first time for me. I'm very excited to have this type of experience with you. And that's me. That's a bit more about me.
Wow, Juan, I am honored that I get to be with you in this dream.
Now is your moment for the mic.
Yes,
exactly.
your moment to shine.
Absolutely.
You look great behind the mic, by the way.
Thank you.
It's natural.
Ali, yes, let's hear something fun about you as well.
Fun fact. So growing up, I'm Serbian Croatian and raised in Canada, but I spent all my summers back in Croatia by the seaside. And I was terrified of sharks and deep waters. And ironically, I became a marine biologist. So my whole family and friends that grew up with me think that this career was hilarious for me because all they can remember is me being terrified of deep waters growing up and terrified of sharks. I mean, I did see sharks, so it is a warranted fear. But I decided when I was studying that I really just wanted to conquer this fear by learning more about them. And I fell in love with them. So here we are.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. So let's go ahead and get into kind of what we are discussing today in this podcast, which is how to achieve sustainable profitability. I think first and foremost, can we start off by having a little bit of an explanation about what is sustainable profitability? I know this was a term that I wasn't as familiar with when I first heard it, and so I think there might be some other people like that. Juan, do you want to take this one?
Yes, absolutely. So, as I said before, my background in hotels is revenue management. And there are, from now until 2030, 700 million people are going to be joining the world's middle class. So, if everything goes according to plan, I don't think hotels are going to have a problem really with demands moving forward. But as the pandemic has proven, there will be circumstances that we need to face as societies, as businesses, which might stop us from being able to service that demand. So the idea of sustainable profitability is basically giving the hotel the capacity to adapt and transform the business model to become more resilient, taking elements exclusively, of course, business, profit, but also taking into consideration environmental aspects. So we can continue having resources really to service this demand, and of course societal as well. So bringing all these elements together is how we are going to be able to remain profitable, intertwined with society and planet.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Ali, did you have anything you wanted to add on the sustainable profitability side?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's also a reason why Sea Going Green is a social enterprise, but we are a for-profit business. We realize that sustainability is a huge selling point also for tourism companies, and we didn't want to be this like green NGO flag that, hotels can just wave around without actually doing anything operationally, really putting the money where the work is. And also, I think we work with a lot of destinations, and we're seeing a lot that destinations ultimately do lose their profitability when they lose their beauty. So all these strategies are really to preserve it so that they can also be long-term businesses and long-term destinations.
Perfect. And yeah, I mean, I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but what is in it for hotels to have this? What exactly are the tangible benefits?
Well, there are many. First of all, I think we live in a society, and we need to be able to basically live in, as I said before, intertwined with all these elements. There is also the aspect, and I think the energy crisis we are facing now proves that those hotels that have started this journey into, for example, more sustainable sources of energy for the hotels, right now they are having a massive return. So there is definitely a proof point there as to how sustainability can be profitable. But also there are different elements which I think we need to take into consideration. One of the problems we are having now as an industry is our capacity to attract staff. And I think if we were to become a more sustainable industry, an industry which is not lagging behind but leading this business transformation, becoming truly 21st century businesses, I'm sure there will be lots of young people who now they are looking for new careers, and they will be inspired not only by the opportunities that hospitality offers, but also by an industry which is forward thinking and sustainable. And finally, talking about sustainable profitability and talking about my discipline, which is revenue management, I believe that there is also a clear linkage between revenue management and sustainability, which is not obvious. And it's because, revenue management and distribution, there are now segments of potential clients that are actually looking for sustainable experiences. Some of them is proven that they are happy to pay even more. It's going to have an impact on the type of reviews clients are going to leave you when they leave the hotel, which is there is again a clear linkage between online reputation and revenue management. And finally, there are also segments like, for example, corporates, big corporate accounts that will only stay in sustainable hotels, certify sustainable hotels as part of their ESG strategy. So therefore, if you are not right now a certified hotel, you won't be able to bid for this type of market. And the same thing with groups. right now, big groups, some of the strategies that they follow is basically reducing their carbon footprint. Again, if they are looking for sustainable hotels in order to achieve that. So there are many elements really that come into this concept of sustainable profitability.
It certainly sounds like it's becoming more of a need than just a nice to have. Like I used to think it was that, it was nice that companies are sustainable, but with these requirements that you mentioned, and also tying back to what Ali said earlier, where you were mentioning that sustainability attracts certain types of business. It's interesting that you tie that back to the staff as well. We're the same type of people when we look for our own travel and also ourselves. So that's a really interesting connection there. But Ali, I didn't know, do you have anything to add as well as far as how hotels can benefit or what's in it for them?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we also need to remember what future generations that are going to be traveling to these hotels will be. Majority will actually be Gen Z in the next 10 years, and Gen Z demands sustainability. They actually always expect it now. There's studies coming out. I think 80% of them already expect that any kind of tourism product that they're choosing is somehow inherently sustainable. They're expecting these kinds of choices. They want to see it. They want to see it in the products they're buying, the services that they're buying. So this is the kind of demand that we're really trying to service for with sustainability. Also, of course, as Juan touched on, employee retention. Obviously, everyone is looking to work for purpose for social enterprises as well. But also, I mean, it's saving hotels money. I think obviously Juan also talked about the energy crisis, and any kind of hotels that implemented good energy practices before are really saving a lot of money now. I wish I did some of that in my own house, to be honest.
Hindsight, right?
Definitely. But also simple things like maintenance. I mean, we're looking at even maintaining like the appliances that hotels have, and doing dimmers and timers and things like that can save them 30% on their utility bills. So it's a huge money saving opportunity as well.
It definitely sounds like hotels just need to look more on the long term for these kind of things, because the short-term returns and benefits are just not going to outweigh what will happen in the long term, like what we're seeing with the energy crisis.
It's a problem of the industry. We have the pressure of the next season of delivering results, and that makes us very short-term minded. And sustainability is an invite for everybody to think in the mid and long term, and how our business models are going to be still, in this case, profitable and sustainable in 10, 20 years' time.
Yeah, but at the same time, no one builds a hotel for 1 year. So why aren't we, thinking about sustainability as a long-term strategy as well?
Absolutely.
It's a really interesting conundrum, actually, because with COVID, we had to think on the short term, right? Like the last 2 years, we had nothing to go on. I think I couldn't even think a month out. And I know a lot of hoteliers I spoke to during that time were also along the same way. So how do we get out of this COVID mindset of that short term thinking and back into this long term setting up for success for future generations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that the demand is there. As Juan was saying, we're not going to have a demand problem. If anything, I think we're going to have a supply problem in the coming years. So it's really about servicing, again, the sustainable market, looking at how we can really keep our resources, save money, and be long-term businesses. I think we're getting out of that COVID mindset, at least what we're seeing, especially from governments, the way that they're talking about, even during COVID. Obviously, our private sector work really suffered, but the governments were more than happy to start talking about sustainability strategies. How are we going to reopen sustainably? We work on a lot of small island developing states where the GDPs are 75, 80, 90% sometimes reliant on tourism. So it's how do we make these businesses more resilient to future disasters? Because unfortunately, they are coming.
Yeah, and the pandemic was a very extreme example and unexpected. But for example, if you check the news now and you look at Italy, the problem they're having with water seems that it's going to be accentuated this summer. I'm sure that the entire US is desperate to visit Italy this summer, but if we start having water restrictions, that might have an impact on the hotel's demand. Or, for example, just to touch on another thing, there were hotels in the island of Ibiza last summer that they were not able to open 100% of their rooms because they couldn't find the staff, because the problem with property and the prices of rental in the island during the summer. So, if we look into like 360 degrees aspects, bringing all these elements together, we need to, as a business, there are lots of elements we have to look at in order to be able to service that demand that otherwise will be coming our way.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually a very good point. It makes me think even deeper. There's just so much connected to the topic as well. But just to switch gears a little bit, I was kind of curious to hear more about kind of your personal journey and how that led to joining sustainability. Juan, could you share a little bit more about what got you into sustainability actually?
Well, I've been kind of developing and learning and living by sustainable principles at the personal level for many years. I've been running for, a few years ago, I was doing projects to decarbonize my kitchen and my bathroom or whatever. People thought I was a bit of a freak, but so it's something that I always lived at the personal level, but not really professionally, right? Because I was doing revenue management, and revenue management was always felt completely detached from these principles. So I've taken over the last 2 years some time of work where I've been really studying not only about sustainability, but how to apply sustainability into our industry, hospitality. And now I have found a company which is bringing these two elements together: revenue management, three elements: revenue management, technology, and also sustainability. So that's how I've got, let's say, officially into this field, into this discipline. But yeah, that's kind of my journey.
Now you get to do your passions. I love that. And Ali, I know you kind of touched on this already. I'm still super impressed that you got over your fear of sharks, because I need to take some tips on that. I'm from Florida and I'm still terrified to go.
My God, yeah. I saw one there one time.
I have a shark tracker on my phone where I track all the sharks. But what prompted you to overcome this fear and really, start off on your own? Like, how did that start?
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey definitely starts more in childhood. I mentioned, I'm Serbian Croatian, raised in Canada, and then, visiting Croatia every summer was amazing. This is really where I fell in love with the sea, but also it's where I saw tourism at a different scale. So Croatia wasn't the most popular when I was growing up, but every year more and more tourists came. And then, obviously talking with local community and family, they were happy that tourism was there, obviously, because they can work for 6-7 months of the year and live off that for the rest of the year, which was great from a profit perspective. But then again, we were seeing more trash come up and community complaining about, all these tourists coming, not cleaning up. There's not enough infrastructure, sewage systems, et cetera. And then us as snorkelers and divers were also seeing the water quality going down. And that was interesting, and also kind of really sparked my interest between the communities and tourism, and how can we really pull these two together. Flash forward, I lived in 6 countries before the age of 21, which was an amazing experience. But also in that time, I lived in Singapore and traveled a lot of Southeast Asia. And tourism there is at a completely different scale. But I mean, both positive and negative impacts are very obvious there. It's really where I saw plastic pollution at a completely different scale and what tourism can do. And, all these Western countries also just like sending trash over there. And it's really kind of sparked my interest again for how we can find this balance between marine environments and tourism. So I moved to Amsterdam to actually do my oceanography and limnology master's degree 9 years ago. I can't believe it's been 9 years. And during that time, I worked a lot with NGOs like WWF and biodiversity centers here, and I did a lot of consulting. And I really fell in love with, and I used to work in the tourism industry. Yeah, something I didn't mention. Throughout all my studies and in Canada, I worked with a destination management company. So really with a tour operator, and saw the tourism side from that side. And then I really wanted to see how I can merge these two together. How can I work in tourism and marine biology together? And I fell in love with the consulting just during my studies. I worked with consulting companies, and I really wanted to see, how can I merge these two passions together? And the timing was kind of right, because in 2017, the United Nations World Travel Organization named that year the year for sustainable tourism. And it was the first time that they were really talking about environmental sustainable tourism too. So how can we really alleviate those negative impacts of tourism on the environment? And I said, hey, I'm a marine biologist. I want to focus on the marine environment. So I literally started Googling like sustainable tourism consultancies, businesses, and I couldn't find anyone doing it really for the marine environment. So I had this big network in tourism. So I just started talking to yachting companies and saying, hey, what do you do for sustainability? Would you pay for this? And how do you see this as like your long-term growth strategy? And it's kind of how it tumbled. But I didn't have this ambition to, start this big consultancy. And here we are 6 years later. Yeah.
Isn't that the best part of life, though? How
Oh my God.
you can plan all you want, but it's never going to happen. It's just going to come to you usually.
It's about putting the shifting and doing the work, and then eventually the planets will align and everything will fall into place.
Absolutely. Now when I tell the story, it's like, oh, it's so obvious. You were always going to do this. And I was like, no way. Like it was month by month, kind of just trying to figure out how can I work and impact. And I kind of created the job I wanted.
Yeah, during the time I took off, something I did is basically talk to lots of people who were more or less related to sustainability, trying to get inspiration. I was this crazy guy trying to connect revenue management and sustainability. But then eventually I end up finding the people, right, that were thinking alongside myself, and here I am. So.
Perfect. Well, I think we've got to the bell, so it's time for the next topic. But super cool. Thank you so much for sharing, guys. It definitely is inspiring me. So now we're going to do a little section called the Shameless plug. And it is exactly as it says. We're going to shamelessly talk or brag about a topic of our own. Ali, would you like to start off?
Yeah, sure. We are trying to expand our private sector clientele. We're now accepting clients. So this is my shameless plug. If you're a hotel, river cruise, yachting company, tour operator, and you want to measure a carbon footprint and you want to build a CSR strategy, please contact us. We're ready to work with you. We're also doing a lot of training and capacity development, a lot of webinars, workshops with staff as well. So if you're trying to see how to do employee retention through CSR, it's also something that we're expanding into. And from the public sector side, if you're a government also wanting to build a sustainable tourism management plan, that's something we didn't touch on today, is the sustainable tourism certification label Jungle that we're having. There's over 150 sustainable tourism certifications out there. And it's how do you know which one's the right fit for you? So this is something that we've done with the tool that we had. We developed it in the Bahamas, actually, with their government. And we're now trying to do that with other governments. So if you're looking for what certification fits you, contact us.
Ali's your girl. Juan, how about you? What's your shameless plug?
Well, I haven't mentioned it just yet, but the name of the company I work for is BEONx. We are a Spanish company. We are celebrating our 10th anniversary this year.
Woo!
Yes, we are very happy. Lots of celebration ahead of us still. And basically, we come from the market intelligence revenue management field. But we have realized that in order to help hotels to be more, to sustain profit over time, we have become agents of change. And we are trying to explore all these different systems that interact with the hotels, internal, particularly to do with technology, and external, to do with clients. And we are trying to work through all of them to remove frictions and bring them all together. So we have created this sustainable, profitable marketplace where hotels are going to be able to plug and play the elements of technology that they want to use in order to increase their profits, break silos, but also bring elements of sustainability into it. So as Ali was saying, if you are a hotel which have started your journey into sustainability, or you are planning to do so, and you are thinking about it as a cost, and you want to turn this into a growth factor and implement it into your overall hotel strategy, and you want to be able to monetize and capitalize on that journey as well, and be able to attract those clients I was talking about before, talk to us.
Then Juan's your guy. Thank you so much, Juan. Well, I'm going to take this opportunity to also share a shameless plug. So in a few weeks, on April 4th, Oaky will be joining some really cool industry leaders at Muse Unfold here in Amsterdam, in our hometown, actually. We're just so excited. The theme this year is the new standard in hospitality. Definitely hope that sustainability is part of that topic. But it's going to be a fabulous event. So we hope that you can join us there. And if we have to bribe you with chocolate, we would happily do so. All right. There we go. We get the bell. So just some last minute conclusions and greetings. Juan, did you want to share somebody that inspires you in the industry at all?
Yeah, I can. So every time I talk about my professional career, I tell crazy stories about, the time I worked at the Metropolitan Hotel on Park Lane, and I used to be hanging out with all these celebrities, or all my hotel openings. So crazy stories about startups in Silicon Valley and so on. But a hotel which was really important in my career was a hotel called One Aldwych Hotel, located in the city of London.
Yeah.
That was the hotel that opened basically the field of revenue management for me. But this is the hotel where I actually started to learn about sustainability. These guys it was one of the first boutique hotels in London, and they opened already their doors as a sustainable hotel. They were doing things like they had evac toilets, basically reducing the usage of water, which it took a lot of explaining to clients. But anyway, it was worth going through that pain. They were participating in kind of social campaigns, really with local community and so on. But they were doing things already, like thinking about biodiversity in cities 20 years plus ago. And they had beehives on the rooftop, but they were producing their own honey, which they were then, of course, serving at breakfast at the hotel. So I'm very grateful for this to this beautiful property. It's still going. It's doing very well. But they planted two very important seeds in my life: revenue management and sustainability. So thank you to the team from here.
That's a great story. Thank you so much for sharing. And Ali, I was wondering, do you have like a tip or two for somebody that wants to start out in sustainability, or maybe they don't even know where to get started? What would be your tip?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a lot of early career individuals reaching out to us for internships, or, that they don't necessarily have a sustainability degree, quote unquote. So they're asking, how can I get into this field? And I really wanted to kind of reach out to this audience and say that, really look at what your passions are. I think right now I know we're talking about sustainable tourism here, really, but I mean, we need sustainability across all sectors. So just anecdotally, we did a sustainability workshop for a software company here in Amsterdam a couple of weeks ago. And, inherently the software company is like, what do we have to do with sustainability? But they had, two really, really interesting colleagues who just wanted to kind of spread the knowledge about sustainability through the team. They got the CEO to put aside a budget to do the sustainability workshop and really get all these colleagues involved from different kinds of departments that maybe necessarily aren't inherently connected to sustainability. But it was one of the most exciting workshops we've done in a really long time, because they really pulled from personal experiences and, what can we do in the office, for example. Now they're going to do veggie lunches from that. And things like that. And, not obviously no plastics in the office, and look at their waste streams and try to get more budget to get LED lights all over the office and things like that. So I think this is a great story, of that we all kind of need to think about sustainability, bringing it from your personal life to your professional life. And I think, Juan, you're a great example of that, revenue management and sustainability. How did you put those two together? So I think that's great to see that. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And yeah, I think they're our last bell. So just to wrap things up, is there anything else that you wanted to mention to our listeners, as far as just to summarize what we spoke about today, or just kind of that one last tip or suggestion for hoteliers or anybody looking to enter the industry? Just kind of our closing comments. Juan, do you want to add?
Yeah, I think this sustainability journey that we are all part of starts at the individual level. And if you are, a receptionist, reservationist in a hotel, and you have enjoyed this conversation we had, and you are starting to think how you can have an impact, I'm sure there are lots of initiatives at your property where you can help in your department, how to reduce the usage of, paper or whatever it might be. I'm sure there will be opportunities for you to get, your hands in it and be part of this change.
That's great. I know that definitely motivates me. I'll be honest, I haven't done as much recycling until I moved to Europe, and now it's all I do in my house. I've got all these bags and containers, and so it's definitely something that I also want to do, especially after speaking to you, Juan, is take that into my professional life. But Ali, what about you? Is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with from today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think just to echo Juan too, it's all about starting, and everyone's like, oh, what's that one plastic straw going to do, said 8 billion people. So I really kind of want to pull on that we are kind of this collective effort and really starting in, with small steps that can make really big impact. Perfect.
Well, thank you to both Juan and Ali for being lovely guests today. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation, and now I know exactly who to turn to when I need tips and tricks. But yeah, thank you again for joining us, and thank you to our listeners as well for joining. Stay tuned for our next LowKey by Oaky episode in the future.
Thank you.